Here's Brody Brazil.
All right, I've come up with this list of 5 things specifically to watch for in the 2021 NHL season for the Sharks. And let me begin with what's most obvious and what is most connected to everything else in their success, and that is team defense. Last year, it was an interesting tale. I mean, obviously, they were one of the worst teams in the Western Conference, but they were one of the best penalty-killing teams in the entire league. So 4-on-5, right? They're so good defensively. But their 5-on-5 defense somehow was among the worst in all of the 31 NHL teams. And also there's a whole conversation about goalies and struggling and the connection. Is it the defense of the team or is it the goalie himself? I'm just here to say if you can clean up team defense, if you can go from being 30th or 31st in the league to somewhere around the midway point, I mean, optimally you'd like to be in the top half, but if you're 14th, 15th, 16th in the league in defense for the Sharks this upcoming year, you've already made tremendous strides and you're going to help yourself out win a lot of games. I'm not even going to bring up the whole 2 or fewer thing. When you allow 2 or fewer goals to the opponent, what's the Sharks' record? Look, it's just pretty good. We'll say that. But even allowing 3 on a nightly basis, it just puts you in a lot more games than what we saw last year. And what we saw last year, way too many odd man chances, way too many net front chances, and just defensive mistakes and breakdowns that were so costly. It seems like every time the Sharks had a mistake, it was instantly paid for on the other end of the ice. So I'm talking about team defense here first because I think that has so many facets to it, and I'm watching that to see how much that has improved. And don't get me wrong, I do want to see who scores the most goals, who gets off to a hot start, how the power play looks, but defense more than offense, I realize it's not going to be the sexiest conversation to talk about how well they're playing defensively, but I really do think that's going to translate into the quickest results. All right, thing number 2 here, it actually is scoring, but not so much overall scoring, like where it's coming from, either the power play or 5-on-5. I'm more concerned with where it's coming from in the lineup. And when I say depth scoring, first off, you have to hold the top 6 forwards, I think, accountable, the Couture line, the Hurdle line. I guess you expect it from the Evander Kanes and the Timo Meyers and your 2 centermen and a Kevin Labanc. But, I mean, you're really going to need that third line. And if it is a very speedy line with a Donato and a Nieto and maybe a Gregor on that line, like you're going to expect energy, but you're also going to have to expect some scoring production from that line. How about a fourth line maybe that features a Dylan Gambrell and a Patrick Marleau? Like they're going to have to contribute something too. So scoring needs to come from a multitude of places. We've just seen it too many times actually over the years with the Sharks that they're top heavy in their scoring. And when those 6 forwards ultimately run a little bit dry, the rest of the team isn't able to, compensate and pick up that load. I would also say this, and I mean, Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson, highly known for their puck-moving ability, their offensive prowess, but I think, and I do predict a high assist season for Karlsson. I think Burns, we certainly know what he's capable of with the puck. It would be great to see those guys actually get a few more goals themselves. Now, this is not putting the pressure on them. I'm just saying that so long as they're involved with the offense, I'm very happy. But when we talk about depth scoring, let's not just make it about, the top, the third and fourth line. Let's not make it about the top 6. Let's make it about the third and fourth line of forwards and also some of the defensemen. And I should actually backtrack too. Point number 1, when I was just talking about team defense a second ago, I am not at all saying that this is all the defensemen, right? So let's clarify that. The defensive play of the forwards last year was challenging as their blue liners itself. So it's an overall team effort on both regards. I think those are specifically the things I'll be looking for as it relates to improvements. All right, third thing I'll be looking at here in 2021 is the beginning of this year and the road effect that it's going to have for San Jose. At this point, as I tape this, I don't know where that February 1st game is going to be. At SAP Center, somewhere else. I know there's a few options, and I would say it like this. The game doesn't matter if it's at the Tank or elsewhere because it doesn't matter. There's no fans. There's not going to be fans there. It's not the home ice advantage. It's the fact that these players can go home, right? That they could see their family for the first time in now more than a month. if they're actually able to play at home. Like I said, as I tape this right now, don't know the answer of how that's going to shake out. But I am telling you why it's important. It's less about where they're actually playing the game. It's way more important about where they're spending all their off hours and if they can actually be in the home environment with families, their own beds, their own meals. It's not to say that the road is completely bad, right? Like I can say and see a lot of bonding with these guys, even with the spacing that they're required to have, and it makes sense. They're just around each other. They're on a business trip right now. And so long as they're not playing in San Jose, that business trip will continue. There are some benefits of that. But I also can tell you from a family perspective, there's a lot of drawbacks too. And it's going to get fatiguing. However long this lasts, right? It's going to be a little bit more fatiguing than any other team has to deal with. And coincidentally, like I said, this is how they go out of the gate. Their first 8 games all on the road, for sure. Like that's a significant chunk of a 56-game season, right? And watching the baseball season like I just did, I know how important the beginning portions are and jumping out of the gate is. All right, next point to make here, this is number 4 of 5. What's going to happen when the Sharks face their first point of adversity? Look, I'm past the whole conversation of last year there was, some ruffled feathers in the room and guys weren't seeing eye to eye anymore and it was more individuals and team. I'm past that. I'm way past that. It's been documented. It's been, quite frankly, discussed openly and to, a lot of admission. They realize where they went wrong and they think they're back on the right track now. So what I want to see is when stuff does go bad, and it's inevitably, look, every team's going to have a rough patch. I don't know if that means losing 2 in a row, 4 in a row. Gosh, I hope, not more than that in this shortened season. That's digging quite a big hole, but maybe you lose a game in the last seconds that you should have won. How does this team respond? I want to see their first response from adversity because I do feel like that's going to tell you a lot about what they're made of, where they're truly at. And I'm not saying this like I challenge them to be in that position. No, I'm just saying it's going to happen, happens to everybody. I'm interested to see how they respond to that first piece of adversity of the season. I really think that's going to be telling and we'll learn a lot more about them. And then last thing here, point 5 of number 5, and I think this applies to every NHL team, but it's how will they roll with the punches. Now, this past summer, I covered the Oakland A's. They played 60 games in 66 days, and there were, 5 doubleheaders by the end of the year? They had 1 positive COVID test about midway through their season. It forced them to shut everything down. Fortunately, this is very fortunate for them, that 1 positive case, it did not spread to anybody else. But imagine if it did. Now you're probably shut down more like a week or more, right? Until more testing is done. You have to move around these games. And that's the thing about baseball season. They could play doubleheaders to make up their games. And I'm not even saying that the Sharks might endure this. What if it's one of their opponents who can't play them, 4 times within a 2-week span? Then you have to go reschedule as the team that's, fortunately unaffected by health, but you still have to go reschedule these games against that team. It's a domino effect around the league. I certainly wish everybody the best in health. I think it's beyond admirable that people are sacrificing themselves and their families in a lot of ways to keep the sport going. I hope that doesn't go under-discussed or underrated. I won't let it during this season. But my point is that being flexible, there's a 5 and a 6-day break, I think, in this schedule. What if the Sharks, because of whatever reason, or the whole league has to shut down for a while and then restart back up again? And, you were in perfect hockey shape. Now you're not. Now you're expected to jump right back in it. You see what the Dallas Stars are currently going through. I wish all of them the best, including Joe Pavelski. So, we talk a lot about this season in normal terms because maybe it'll turn out that way. But quite honestly, likely it won't. And I know it's not the favorite topic to discuss the pandemic and COVID here as it relates to something, people enjoy like watching Sharks hockey and watching the NHL, but this is going to factor in the season somehow, some way. And does it take priority over how a team's doing? The pandemic is more important than who's playing well. Let's get that very straight. But my point is here, it's going to affect gameplay and teams at some point. I saw it happen in baseball. We've seen football teams play games without their quarterbacks. We've seen basketball teams dress 8 guys in total, and some nights have to cancel games. They don't have enough guys. Is there going to be a game where a hockey team can't put either of their 2 goalies out there? Has to use the taxi squad goalie? Probably. I'm not saying the Sharks. Will somebody have to go through that? Maybe. Maybe it's likely. So expect the unexpected. That's definitely going to factor in. As much as people are not talking about that right now, I think they will be in the months ahead. So those are my 5 things to watch for the upcoming season. I will see you on television, and I hope you enjoy this.